folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today is Memorial Day, and I want to start off by saying that to remember those that have gone before, that have fought and died for this nation. There's a lot of them, and they died fighting for a nation that they were proud of, and we should honor them for what they've done. And it's something it's kind of a dying thing. It's sad that people no longer really honor them. And regardless of your political position, regardless of what you think about going to war, and there's arguments that if you want to honor and respect them, quit sending them off to needless wars. And I don't disagree with that at all. But we do have and have had the probably the bravest men and women in our ranks that's ever been on this planet. And this day, one day out of the year, is not that too much to ask to pay them a little bit of honor. Before I get started in today's video, I just wanted to tell a little personal thing about this. We live way out in the sticks. You're all aware of that. But down the road from us is an old country cemetery. And there's no church or anything. Maybe there was at some point. And if you're ever been out, especially here in the Ozarks, but a lot of places, they have them. They're just random little country cemeteries out there. And in fact, I help kind of maintain it, go over there and keep it cleaned up. And the kids, we go over there and clean up the headstones, just volunteer to keep the place kind of nice. And anyways, the point is, here we are, Memorial Day, and it's amazing. This is a very old cemetery. There's people that are buried there that died before the Civil War. There are both Union and Confederate soldiers buried in this cemetery, and as far as I can tell, there are soldiers buried there from every war since then. And then, of course, other people. And in the last couple of days, just kind of watching, I've seen several older men. I would guess probably at least 70, and some probably older. There's been a couple that wondered how they were even able to get out of the car. They were so feeble, by themselves, and they've gone to decorate graves. And then there's been other people, couples and stuff. I would say that probably 75%, maybe even more, of the people that I have viewed in the last couple of days, and I know that I haven't probably seen everyone, but I've seen several people kind of go over there, and I would say 75% of them are 65 or older, 70 or older. I don't know that I've seen any young people, maybe my age, a few, but I don't think I've seen any young people over there. And it's sad that among the many things that we as a nation should be ashamed of is that this nation is losing the respect for the ones that's gone before. And I don't know. I wanted to point that out. And here we are, Memorial Day, and I thought it'd be a good thing. And you can take that for however you want it, or just completely ignore it. I wanted to talk about today, about the sun. And some of you may be interested, and some of you may not. But one of the big things that preppers sometimes are preparing for are EMPs and CMEs. And if you don't know what a CME, it's a coronal mass ejection. It's where the sun spews out a bunch of gas and radiation and all that kind of stuff. And once it hits the planet, it acts very similar to a EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse. It causes a geomagnetic storm, and if it's powerful enough, it can fry every electronic device on this, on the planet, or at least the side of the planet that it's being directed at. Usually, we do get them on occasion. Usually, they may cause some disruption in communications. Radio and cell towers and stuff like that. It could cause some disruption of that if it's powerful enough, but they are certainly powerful enough, capable of doing a lot of damage. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is the sun's been kind of spewing them out lately. And in fact, there is one that was shot out, I believe 2 days ago, day and a half ago, that is expected to graze by the planet tomorrow. This one is big enough that if it was a direct hit, well, it may not knock us back to the Stone Age. It could certainly do some damage. But it is more out in space. I believe they said it should probably hit, I think maybe Saturn or Jupiter or something like that, but it's not directed at us specifically. There have been some in the last few weeks, some smaller ones. And one of the things that was interesting that we're noticing, and there's been kind of a prediction and a belief of this, and I've spoken of this in a past video recently, is that the electromagnetic field on this planet is weakening. It's believed that that's also a cycle. And there's lots of theories and ideas of what's happening, and some of it's way above my knowledge. But we'll just say that we do know that the electromagnetic field of the planet is weakening. And that is one of the main barriers, the protection from CMEs. And if it's getting weaker, what that means is it doesn't take as big, as massive of a CME to do a major amount of damage. One that happened, I believe, a couple of weeks ago was a very small CME. In fact, it was only slightly more powerful than just regular solar wind on a regular basis. It was just a little bit more powerful than that. But when it got here and it hit us, so the surprising thing happened is it started spiking levels much higher than should have for something of that magnitude. And the reason for it was that our electromagnetic field has weakened. And so for those of you, especially those of you preppers that's kind of on top of this kind of stuff and prepare for it, all these years that we have thought, man, if there was a massive CME and it hit the planet, it could just knock us out. Well, what we're finding out now is it wouldn't take necessarily a massive CME to knock us out. Sure, it would probably take a fairly large CME, but a moderate one, moderately sized one, could probably do some damage. And a large one, we don't really know, but a lot of this is theoretical of what it would actually do. But there is a belief that it could be very major. Why do we worry about this kind of stuff? These are like happen chance. Well, as I've explained on here before, we're in the middle of a grand solar minimum. You all know that, right? And during a grand solar minimum, we're more prone to have more powerful CMEs. Trying to understand the science in my small, tiny little brain, basically the surface of the earth kind of cools and the radiation levels and stuff kind of calm down, which causes the grand solar minimum, less sunspot activity. But when a CME when there is an ejection from the corona, maybe it's because of the buildup of pressure. I don't understand exactly, but they're more massive than during normal time periods for the sun. And if some of you understand it better and care to explain in scientific jargon a little bit more about what I'm talking about, feel free to do so. So we're in the middle of a grand solar minimum. We're feeling the effects. I mean, I don't know how close you monitor this stuff, but just about everywhere on the planet is experiencing very strange and different kinds of weather than what would be normal. Australia, yes, I understand they're going into their winter down there, but it's already they're record-breaking cold temperatures. Europe, cold temperatures. We've had unusually cool temperatures here. Certain parts of this country is dry as a bone, and other parts they're up to their eyeballs in water, and it's going to be that way for a while. So we know that we're in the middle of or at least the early few years of a grand solar minimum. The thing to think about is also a CME. How prepared are you for a CME and an EMP? And an EMP, I'm not going to go into the scientific details of that, but it's an electromagnetic pulse that is ignited basically when a high altitude nuke is detonated. And you can do your own research for that if you care to. The point is that this stuff the radio waves are so devastating that they fry electronic devices. The last time that one happened, a CME happened, was back in the 1800s. And basically the only type of electronic device, it wasn't electronic necessarily, but it was electric, was the wire, the telegraph. People didn't have electricity in their homes at this time. It was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution where everything was mechanized. And so the only electronic type of device that existed was the telegraph. And there were reports at that time of telegraph wires lighting on fire, burning and melting off of poles because of the CME that happened, because it fried them. It didn't really do much of any other damage. Nothing was really affected in society because society was non-electric at that time. Fast forward to 2021. Let's just say that same thing happens again. And there are several scientists out there that predict, based on calculations, not just, hypothesizing, but based on calculations, they predict that we will see a major CME within the next 2 to 4 years based on solar activity. So if that happens again, one like what happened in the 1800s, how devastating would that be? We're not talking about the grid failure. A grid failure typically means something's happened and the grid is shut down, which means that, whatever they need to do, they can kind of fix it and turn the grid back on. Think of the pipeline down there in the southeast that got hacked and shut down. All the infrastructure was still there. They just needed to work out the bug and the hack and be able to turn it back on. But what if all the technology that runs that was completely destroyed? How much longer would it have been to start that pipeline back up? Think of our grid. All the power lines, it's all run by computers nowadays. So all these computers, all the processors, all the electronics that run it, it's not shut off, folks. They're fried. They're fried for the most part beyond repair. Think of water treatment plants. Fried beyond repair. They start backing up, and they overfill and overspill into freshwater sources. Nuclear power plants, fried. All the safety protocols fried, and they're just set there heating up on their own. What about the places where they dump nuclear waste and are kept at constant temperatures and controlled? All that equipment's fried. Your cell phone, communications, satellites, all kinds of stuff. We're talking apocalyptic devastation is within the realm of possibility with a major CME. Your vehicles won't work for the most part unless you have an older one. And even if you do, the gas pumps are probably not going to work. They have no electricity and way to pump them out. So what fuel you have on hand is about all you're going to have. It's going to be devastating, folks. And so I'm not saying this to scare you. And I'm not saying it because I believe it absolutely, definitely will happen. I'm saying that we're in a cycle of the sun, that there are much higher chances of it happening than, say, 5 or 10 years ago. If this was 10 years ago with CMEs, while you can't predict them as precisely, you can kind of tell based on solar activity, what the odds are of one happening. And let's say 10 years ago, we would have said, it's really low, there's always a chance. It's really low right now. Well, we're not, I don't think we're necessarily in a high chance of them happening, but the odds of something like that happening are certainly more significant and higher than in the past years. So I would encourage you, among all the stuff that's going on and that we're preparing for, I think this is something that you should take a little bit more serious. Looking at the data that I've been looking at, I've read a few articles in the last couple of weeks on this from legitimate scientists and talking about the solar activity and the possibility of a devastating one happening within, let's just say less than a decade. Are starting to look pretty good. So this is something that that you should start taking serious. Without going into details in this video of all the things that you can do. But one of the things is you need to have a way to do a lot of the stuff that you do without electricity. You know, you might say, oh, we're off grid and we have solar power. There's a good chance that unless that stuff's protected, it's going to get fried. Same thing with generators. It could be very devastating. So my advice, like I said, is to have things on hand, to learn to do things primitive, old ways. Another thing is you can protect some things. And I don't think everything on the planet's going to be knocked out. There's certainly some hardened sources with the military and with the government, and certain individuals have hardened their, you know, ham radios and communication. So there would be some people that you could communicate with. You know, you can put things in a Faraday cage, or you can bury them in the ground. Usually 18 inches to 24 inches is typically considered enough to protect from something like that. And, you know, right now I'm just talking about the immediate damage to the electric grid and stuff. I'm not even getting into the thing of, you know, how many people would be dying for many various reasons within the first 12 months when something like this happens. This is a major apocalyptic thing. Again, I'm not on here saying that, oh, it's happening, the sky is falling, getting ready. I'm saying that based on some of the things that's happening, you know, the sun's producing, you know, the activity is there. We're in that cycle with the sun that the activity is there. And couple that with the fact that our electromagnetic field has weakened in what we believe to be significantly in the last couple of decades, to the point that it wouldn't take a real massive CME to do a lot of damage on this earth. So when you put those two together, it creates a fairly dangerous situation, and I think it's certainly worth preparing for. And so that's why I wanted to mention it today. It's Memorial Day, so I wanted to honor that. You know, it's kind of a slow news day, and this is something that may not be on your mind all the time. But it certainly should be something that you think about and that you prepare for. And here we have tomorrow, one coming by, and from what I understand, it's probably going to scrape by us. It could potentially cause some communication problems, but they believe that it won't cause anything significant. But if it had been a direct hit, it certainly could be a significant damaging CME. So I think it's a good opportunity to brush up on your CME and EMP preparedness, because the odds of one happening in your lifetime, you know, they might be pretty decent, especially over the next few years. All right, folks, enjoy your day off if you have one, but certainly take time to remember those that have gone on before, and especially those that served in a uniform, that died serving this country. If you're able to get out and pay some you know, a memory and respect to these people wherever they're at a cemetery somewhere, then please do so, because there's very few people anymore that even does. All right, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.